Hey everyone, welcome back to Play the Game HQ. I'm Allison, this is Daniel, and I have Everdell, but Everdell has...
beachfront property. This is Everdell Farshore. It is, I know you loved that line. This is Everdell.
You love that line.
You liked it too. It was a good one. I have missed shooting with you. I'm glad to have you back in the studio. It's been like 2 months, and we were actually shooting this video before the channel update that posted yesterday. So this is...
wow, we're in the future.
It's like an Inception. So this is the first thing that we've shot together in a couple months, and excited to do it because we have some wildly different opinions on... we have some mildly different, somewhere between mild and wildly different opinions on Everdell and Everdell Farshore.
Now Everdell, this isn't an expansion.
Standalone.
This is a standalone.
Full game.
No, because Everdell just came out with, not this, but like the big box that all the expansions of Everdell fit in and all that stuff. This is not okay, great, you got to squeeze this in there. No, it's a whole different game.
They're starting over with...
starting over.
I'm sure in like 5 years there will be a Farshore big box.
Probably.
For all of this. But yes, Everdell Farshore is a standalone, completely new game on its own. Doesn't use any of the Everdell expansions. It is set in the Everdell world, and it does have quite a few similarities.
So you can still see it.
Biggest difference being it's beachfront. We've come out of the woods. We've moved to the coast. And
this board, it looks like a lily pad, and this board looks like a seashell.
Yeah. Now, if you have played Everdell, you are going to notice a lot of similarities in the gameplay and a good number of differences, especially in the way you score points and the way you're going to strategically want to move through the game. Now,
you've already done a video on just Farshore.
That's what I was just about to say that.
There we go.
Now, I have a full review just on Farshore, and full disclosure, these games were both sent to us by Tabletop Tycoon. Now, they sent them to us at the same time, but we have never played Everdell and decided... We have now. Obviously, we've played now. Yeah. When they sent them to us, we had never played Everdell, so we decided to play Farshore first, review that completely before we ever played Everdell, so that... because I figure most of the reviewers who got this game have probably played Everdell, because I think we're in the minority, having never played it up until like yesterday. So we wanted to give this a fair shot as just its own game and our own perspective on this clean. So we have our untainted review of Everdell Farshore that posted earlier today. So you can find that if you just want to see a review of this as its own game. This video is more to compare the two, to kind of share our thoughts on maybe which one is better or which one fits which scenario better.
And I think we differ.
I think we do differ.
I think we do. Okay, so you still with Farshore.
Yeah.
No, I want to talk now.
Okay, you talk now.
So with Farshore and Everdell, you have the same pleasingly tangible components. You've got the squishy, you have the seaweed that might be a little difficult to pick up sometimes, but you've got those like the squishy berries and
to stay up here.
Yeah, stay up there like that, matchies. You've got the tree and you've got the lighthouse.
The tree serves actually serves a function.
Sit up here, all of them.
The lighthouse is just pretty.
I think you only have the lighthouse because there's a tree.
Yeah, it is a 3D element because Everdell is known for the tree. That's
and I mean you got your cards organized.
They say you can stack your workers on here.
We've tried. They didn't stay up there. You technically can, but it's very difficult. And you are doing the same thing in Farshore that you are in Everdell. You are creating your engine, drafting cards to build your tableau to then have your engine work and get 15 cards in your tableau and try to get the most points.
Yep. So the core of the game, like the core function of the game is the same between the two. They're both worker placement games. You are going to be collecting resources to build your city. The cards have similar abilities, but one of the big differences... all in all, I think Farshore is a more accessible game.
And I'm not going to argue with you.
You're not going to argue with that because it's true. Everdell has more complex card abilities and more complex card combinations. You have the dungeon and the graveyard and cards that you can place cards under and things like that. Farshore doesn't have that. It's just straight. There are cards that combo off of each other, but I noticed that Everdell, so the cards specifically combo off of other cards. Yes. And in Farshore, a lot of the combos, so like the scoring cards, you're going to score for so like the Guildmaster scores for the types of cards that you have, where in Everdell, a lot of those cards that will score based on other cards, it is based on specific cards. It is, this card will score 3 points if you also have this one specific card in your town. So
I had two cards in my tableau, not this tableau specifically, but when we've played, that really helped me rack up the points because it was how many common...
True.
How many construction, there we go, words. How many common construction I had in my tableau, I got extra points for that. And then I also had another one that was, I got more points for every common critter. So those built off of
that. And I didn't come across those when I did. All of the ones that I came across that comboed were like, if you have this specific other card, which you then took.
Oh, he said it was his card. It was still in the meadow, dude. It was still in the meadow. Right. It was free range. I had the free range ranger. See what it is.
So in general, though, but this one doesn't have, Farshore does not have placing cards under cards. It doesn't have a dungeon type card or a graveyard type card where you're burying cards under cards. The terminology in Everdell is you have 15 spaces, but some of those cards stack and combine and consolidate.
Yeah.
In Farshore, you just have 15 cards. There are a few cards that specifically say they don't take up a space or they don't count as one of your cards, but for the most part, you can have 15 cards and you're not worrying about whether or not these two cards consolidate and only take up one space.
That was a little confusing with the Harvest and the Gatherer. Those act as one space.
Yes.
Even though they're two. So, okay. Something that is in Farshore that is similar to Everdell, a lot of things are similar, but the anchors. So the anchors in Farshore, you are able to place it on a common construction or a unique construction, correct?
Yes.
To then play a critter of that same type.
Yes. So in Everdell, you have the doors that you if you have a construction, you can place a door on a construction to build a specific card for free. But it's very specific. Like it will only build one card for free.
Like this one, I have 2 farms. Each of those farms can individually build either a harvester or a gatherer. So I have both of those. So I utilize both of my farms to then build those. But I can only do that once, so I place a door on it. Yeah. I really liked that. I liked the specific of that. For some reason, in my head, I had issues with the darn anchors. I don't know why, but it messed me up in my strategy when we played Farshore. I liked I can build this one with this one. Yeah. I like that.
And in Farshore, it's a little more forgiving. You have 3 anchors. They function. They fill the same function, but it's much broader. So you have 3 anchors. You can use them at any point, but you only have 3. And if you scrap a card, you don't get the anchor back. But you place an anchor on any construction to build a worker of the same or a critter of the same type for free. So you can place it on
place it here in order to build that.
Yes, you can, but it has to be like the red paw print or the red location building a red location critter. So you can't put it on a production card to build a location card or a wanderer card or a traveler, I think is what it is. So it's a little more forgiving in that as long as you have a construction card, you can freely build a critter of the same type with an anchor. You have 3 of those you can use at any point. So less specific than Everdell. And again, a little more accessible because you can use those even if these specific critters don't come up to do that.
Right. I like the specifics and how those work together.
Yep.
Now, in Farshore, you can get cards a whole lot easier. I utilize the docks and the lookout so much in Farshore.
Yeah. Now,
I didn't have that accessibility here in Everdell. It's really what you got to make your strategy with what the cards you get in your hand. You can't depend on being like, well, maybe later on down the road I'll be able to do it this way. You need to create your strategy with what's available to you and build off of that.
Yeah.
I didn't feel that narrowness in Farshore, but I don't mind that at all.
Yeah, it's makes it more. It's a more complex.
It does make it more complex
gameplay. Yes. So in Everdell, it's easier to get resources. It's harder to get cards, and it's the opposite in Farshore. In Farshore, it's harder to get resources. You'll notice there's 8 spots along here to get resources. Half of them are open. Over here, you have 4 spots that are all single-person spots, and that's where you get resources. You do have these spaces down here that get you some resource in the islands, but you have the same thing over here. You have the locations on the sides there that are the same as the islands. So resources are harder to get, but cards are easier to get. You have the lookout that lets you discard any number of cards and then draw back up to your hand limit. Hand limit is a firm 8-card hand limit, just like in Everdell.
So I could discard one card. If I had 3 cards, I could discard 1 card and build back up to 8. It was so nice.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, great. I just want 4 of those cards. So I'm going to go over here to the docks, discard the 4 that I don't need, and get 4 resources that I need to build those cards. It made the flow and made the control of what I was trying to do so much better. I felt like I was much more in control of my strategy. In Everdell, you had to really pull things to get what you were wanting. And just the strategy and balancing that thin line, I like that a lot. Yeah. Can you tell which one I'm preferring?
I like being able to rack up points. And in Everdell, we had 30 to 40 points. You had in the 50s. Over here, we were always in the hundreds. And
No, that's not true.
We were in the high. We were around 100.
I think my first game, I got 95, then 100 and
you got 120 in the last game.
Yeah, and then 100.
I got 160 in our second game.
That is because of the maps.
Yes.
That's another difference between these.
Before we go to that, let's just clear up a couple things that are the same. Played over 4 seasons, same sort of thing. You can progress to the next season whenever you want to. You don't have to wait for everyone else to progress. You're going to get more workers. You start out with 2 workers. You get a new worker each season. Unlike Everdell, you are only going to get 1 worker in the fall, whereas in Everdell, you end up with 6 total. You get 2 in the fall. Also, Everdell you are activating cards, like you're activating your production cards in spring and fall. You do that here too. But the last player to progress to the next season does a couple things. In the summer, the last player to progress is going to flip over 2 of the islands because it's summer. Tide. The tide is higher, so you're going to flip over 2 islands. And we do need to talk about the boats. We'll talk about maps in a second, but the boats are really relevant to what we're talking about.
Well,
and it's like the most glaring change.
Yes, you see this track.
Yes. So we have boats. Boats can score you up to 60 points, and they are really powerful and also built into one of the other really strategic things that I really liked about this game that also made it easier. And more accessible.
Okay, yeah.
So when you play a card, you're going to check your windrose tiles over here. Currently, it is Critter and Traveler. So if I played the Pirate, it is a Critter and a Traveler card. I would activate I would match both of these windrose tiles, and I would move my boat 2 spaces. Anytime you play a card, you're going to check that. If you match 1, you move 1 space. If you match 2, you move 2 spaces. The last player to progress the season is going to cycle those and get 2 new tiles to match. So that's going to change throughout the game. If you pay attention to what is there and you can strategically play the cards that match, you can move really far up here. Now, you max out at 60 points. We usually ended up in the 20s and 30s. I think one game we got up to the 40s.
Yeah. I think you got it to like 47 or something like that.
Now, you'll also notice the little treasure icons. This is one of the biggest differences that lightens the game and opens it up and makes it easier to do things. The treasure, whenever you see a treasure icon, and there are cards that move your boat, but the main function for moving boats is playing cards, the windrose tiles. The treasure either acts as 2 points at the end of the game or is a wild resource. It can be played as any single resource. So as you get treasure, you are going to open up the ability to play cards, even if you haven't gone and gotten resources. It made it like because we played this first, I was struggling over here when we played Everdell to I need a wild resource. Like I can I need 2 wood and a resin. I don't want to spend 2 turns getting those resources. I wish I could go. So the wild resource, the treasure, really made it opened up what you could do a lot more. It was a little more forgiving. But again, you're scoring 100 points in this game. You're scoring 50 points in this game. So that really, and you liked the lower score.
I do like lower. I like scores and points to have more weight. I think I like
more points, way more.
There's something about value in a point. There's those games that it's like first to 10 points win. So and that may be a long game and you're there's this pull to get a point. I like that. That makes every single point mean more than just like, oh, cool, that's 30 points there. Here's 20 points there. It just, for some reason, having that weight with each point means more. So, 50 points is still a lot of points. 100 points is a lot of points.
160 points is a lot of points.
It is. It's a lot of points. The reason you got 160 points was the maps.
Yes.
You focused your whole gameplay, your second gameplay, and seeing how maps can really weigh the game. And it felt like you kind of broke it in a moment.
I didn't know. I didn't.
I
did not break it. Do not accuse me of. I didn't break the game.
Sorry.
I just paid attention to them, and y'all didn't.
No, we did. You just jumped ahead.
I was strategic about it.
You were very strategic.
Yeah. So boats and maps are the two biggest differences, especially for scoring a lot of points between Everdell and Farshore. In Everdell, you have the events up there that are going to give you 3 points each if you do it. And the events are based on having a certain number of cards of that type. So you get 3 scroll cards. You can send one of your workers to the city monument. You can get that. That's going to get you 3 points. This is the replacement for that in Farshore is the maps. So you'll notice similar icons. You have a certain number of card icons. When you qualify for a map, meaning you have 4 production cards, you can send a worker to the dunes. Also, the iconography for spaces, I liked better in Farshore. It is nice. 1 duck print means one person can go there. Lots of duck prints means anybody can go there. Versus, like, we got confused and overlooked on some of these spaces being open versus closed.
This is the one that really messed me up here. I could have gotten more points at the very end because this is open here.
Yeah.
Versus these being closed.
Yep. But back to maps. So you can go to the dunes. You can claim a map when you get it or when you qualify for it, meaning you have the right number of cards or mixture of cards to get it. And the maps are multipliers. And under here, there's a 2 on top and then a 1 and a 1 and a 0 multiplier. So you're going to take the multipliers, you're going to add them all up and multiply them times the number of maps that you have. So if you are able to get all 6 2-point maps, that is 12 times 12 points, or 12 multiplier times 6 maps, that is 72 points. So one person left unchecked could score 72 points from maps. I think I scored like 49. So, but even if you get those 0 maps, if you were able to get a couple of 2s and some 1s, those maps still count, and they still count for your like scoring cards. Like this is 2 points for each map you have. So
did Peyton tell you what confused him with the zeros? Because he just learned about multiplication last year, and he was like, Mom, but 0 times anything is 0, so I don't want to get the zeros because it's going to negate all my other maps because 0 times anything is 0. And I was like, no, the map counts. You're just not adding it to the multiplier. So any early multiplier learners that might mess them up a little bit.
Yeah, so that was... But I liked that. Again, I like that there are more ways to score.
There are a lot more ways to score.
The cards actually score very similarly. One big difference. This is one of the it's one of the back of the book differences. The back of the book for Farshore tells you the differences. In Everdell, you have location cards, but you also have open location cards. I don't think we have any.
I don't have any out.
Oh no, the post office. So it has the little open sign.
Okay.
In Everdell, I could go to Allison's post office, pay her 1 coin, but I could go to that location on my turn. Farshore does not have any of that. You have all of these are common, but any that you build in your city are just for you. Now there are like the Illuminator lets you copy a location ability in someone else's town or someone else's city, so you can still use that ability, but you're not actually going to their city and taking up that space. So that's one of the big differences in the functionality of the cards is you can't go to someone else's city. We're very secluded here in Farshore. It's a gated community.
Maybe it's an island area? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're on our own private islands.
Yeah.
Yep. So all in all, I think we've covered the big difference. The seashells are awesome. Those are the equivalent of coins, but they're just as you gain points throughout the game. If you have a card that's like take 2 shells or whatever, those are the tracking. Otherwise, at the end of the game in Farshore, you're going to add up all your cards, do all your scoring cards, see where you are on the track here, multiply your maps, count up your treasure. Again, the treasure is 2 points at the end of the game for each treasure you have. And that's how you're going to score, and hopefully you score a lot more points than you do in Everdell.
Well, in Everdell, you've got your point. I mean, you see the points on the cards, and then you've got the ones like Gather. If you are paired with the Harvester, you get 3 extra points. Then you have the cards. I don't have them out here. That it's like if I have so many of a common critter, I get additional points. And then you also have your coins. Then you have whatever events you were able to get, and that's it. Well, no. We've got these here too.
Yeah, you have the event. Those are the advanced events.
The advanced events. I did not utilize the advanced events. I didn't get the card pairing in order to do those. You did. Yeah. So what you did there is you just placed one of your characters up there on
once you qualify for it.
And then that goes back into your side where you keep all of your resources.
And those do have some multipliers on them, but not nearly the multipliers that the maps have.
Right.
One thing that we did notice is Everdell cards are a lot harder to read. The print isn't that much smaller, but
if you compare them,
it is just enough smaller that like I was finding myself constantly having to pick up cards to look at them, and I have really, really good eyesight.
Now I have really, really poor eyesight, and was still having to pick up in Farshore just because even with glasses, my eyes are not good. So I didn't feel it quite as much as you did because of that. I was already having to pick up cards, but you mentioned it quite a few times. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even see what that says. Yeah. And that did just add a little bit of clunkiness to the gameplay.
Now, full disclosure, we have only played Everdell, the base game.
Correct.
Everdell has a buttload of expansions.
I think it's got 4.
It's got a lot.
5.
And those may resolve some of the things that we really liked about this, and that may be why this game, Farshore just seems more streamlined, and it seems more accessible, and it could be because they have taken the great things from Everdell and all of the expansions and worked them into one game. I don't know. This one does seem more refined than this.
Now, if you have played Everdell and the expansions, let us know below which ones of the expansions of Everdell would kind of resolve the issues that he has and the clunkiness of the game that obviously Farshore does.
And it's not really clunkiness. It's just Everdell, the base game, required a lot more attention to the details of the cards that you were playing. This one still...
I love that.
And I was fine with that. This one still required attention. Like, you were still comboing cards, you were still doing things, but it felt like you were trying to work on a little bit bigger of a picture, where this one you were working on a lot smaller
your
pictures.
strategy was was a whole lot more narrow, and you had to keep straight shot when that. This one, if someone took one of my cards that I was really planning on, I could easily change my strategy up in Farshore. I think at the end of the day, if someone wanted to play Farshore, yes, I'd play. If someone wanted to play Everdell, yes, I'd play. I don't have enough of I'd rather play this than the other. At the end of a longer day, I would much rather play Farshore because I don't feel like I have to think as much in order to enjoy my gameplay. Everdell, I feel like I do have to think a little bit harder in order to get the satisfaction of seeing a good engine run. I think that's where I'm at with that. I really enjoyed them both. I'm surprised at how much I enjoyed them, only because I was told of a few games that I might like Everdell more. And those are so special to me that I didn't want to like another game more. I didn't weigh heavier on those specific games, but it is another game that I enjoy.
Yeah. And I think if I were going to bring in, if we were having friends over or introducing some new or light gamers to a game, I would definitely do Farshore. Again, it's Everdell seems like there's a lot more of, okay, let me read this card and let me look and see if that other card that I need is out there, and I have this construction. Is the card that I need out there? Is it in my hand that I can build for free versus this one that is just, okay, I have a production card. Okay, I'm going to build this production card for free because I can do that, and that gets me closer to the map. There was less weight in the individual decisions that you were making, which it's a little bit lighter version. It is still, there are so many strategic moves that you can make. I don't want to give the impression that it's a light game. There are a ton of strategic decisions you can make. There's a lot of things to focus on, like the windrose tiles that are going to move your boat, things like that. But it just felt a little more accessible. And it could be that we played this one first. So, but
yeah,
I don't think that. Sorry to interrupt. I don't think that is the case though, because I think having played this one first, we did come into this one and it felt seamless. But a lot of the things that we were doing in this one, I missed those over here.
Yeah, I can see that. Being that Peyton is 10, Jared's almost 14, he had almost more trouble. And maybe that was because we played this first.
Yeah.
But he was like, gosh, I'm not good at Farshore. I'm not good at Farshore. And I felt bad that he felt that way because when you did 160 points, I think he had like 54 or something like that. And so that made him feel lesser in his gameplay.
I think he did forget to move his boat some.
He did, and we worked through that. But I felt bad that he felt that way. And then when we stepped over to Everdell and played it, he made one more point than you.
Yeah.
I think, and he was just like, oh, that makes me feel a lot better. Because he was like, oh, I'm worse at this than even Farshore because he had lesser points.
Right.
But the points were higher value in Everdell than they were in Farshore. And so when he and Daniel made like the same score, he was like, oh, okay, that's good. So I think he actually prefers Everdell because of that situation. Yeah. But and so a 10-year-old, I mean, he is a very fluent gamer for a 10-year-old, but he had no issues with the strategy in both. Yeah. As far as like understanding the mechanics. I mean, maybe it was he didn't have issues with the mechanics. He understood the strategy was a little.
How to string the different options together. And that is, in Everdell, you're focusing on cards. You're building your city first and foremost. To build a strong city, you're going to have strong points. You can do some monuments. You can get some extra points here and there, but focus on your city. That's gonna do it for you. Whereas over here, focus on your city, but make sure that your city gets your boat moving, and also make sure that your city gets you maps. The city is key, but the city is also greatly supporting other scoring opportunities.
Right. Did you see the maps? That you can make a map with the maps.
Oh yeah, if you flip those over, there's a map on the back. They make a little puzzle.
It's here. Let me see the box. They do this. They make the map here. If you put all the maps together, they make a map. Sorry. Yep. That was a little puzzle that we found fun at the end of the game.
So yeah, Farshore, let me look through our list. Let me make sure we get it.
It's a lot of fun, tangible things with this game, especially
My
like the little
phone's dead,
boats.
so I'm gonna say that we covered it all. So
I think we did.
Yeah, and they're obviously they recycled a lot of the mechanics for this game, but I think it could very well be that if we played it with all the expansions, you're like, oh, this is Everdell Light once you add in all the expansions. I don't know, but it has more opportunities to score, but a lot of the core elements of the game are the same. But I think it is one thing that they achieved with it is making it worth being its own game.
Yeah.
It's different enough. It has enough unique things that it's not just a reskin with a couple different things, but really just it's not a reskin that doesn't deserve to exist.
No. And when we first, like at the end of this game, I was like, I don't see the reason to own both. But because we have heavier gamer friends and lighter gamer friends and games and friends that we were trying to introduce into gaming, I think there is a reason to own both if you want to give them the same experience and let them be able to hold on, like be able to catch on quicker. Yeah. So I think there's a reason to own both.
Yeah. So if you have any questions about this, please leave us a comment. We will be sure to answer those. Again, we have a full review of just Everdell that we go through all of the gameplay. Or it's just me. Allison went in on that one. But it's a view of it, having never played Everdell, so just reviewing Farshore as its own standalone game, for which I think it stands strong. It is a great game. I really enjoyed playing it.
Spoilers.
So yeah, if you have any questions, leave us a comment. We'll be sure to answer those. Allison and I so enjoyed doing videos with you again. We have a lot more stuff coming out. So be sure to like and subscribe and all the stuff so you can see the cool stuff that we have coming out. Anything else from you?
I don't think so.
Okay, we'll see you later.
Bye, guys. Bye.